Hello. In this tutorial, I'll be showing you how to make this procedural muzzle flash. It's a volumetric. It's pretty customizable, and the nice thing about it is every single frame that the muzzle flash will be visible, it is going to be different. So that'll add randomness to your scenes so it doesn't look repetitive. And it is pretty easy to set up and use. Okay, so here I am in a new blend file, and I'm just going to delete everything, but I'm actually going to keep the default cube this time, unlike most people. And so the first thing I'm going to do is get this into the basic shape of a muzzle flash. So I'm going to go to my modifiers, generate, and subdivision surface. I'm going to put this to like 4 or something. I may change this in the future or add more later, but right now I'm just going to apply it. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the sculpting tab, and I'm going to use elastic grab, and I'm going to turn on X and Y. So I'm just going to kind of pull this up into the shape that I want. Yeah. It's pretty close. I may do a little more tweaking. But yeah, it doesn't have to be anything special. And I'll just draw some lower detail. I'm going to actually undo that and click those. Just add some randomness to it. The next thing I'm going to do to just add some randomness to my muzzle flash is I'm going to go to the modifiers tab again. I'm going to select deform, and I'm going to go to wave. And now whenever I play it, you can see it's doing this, which is pretty good. It adds some randomness, but I'm just going to tweak some of these values as it plays. I'm going to turn on long normals. There's going to be some pretty drastic changes. Pretty smooth. Okay, so I need to add some displacement to the surface of my muzzle flash for some visual randomness. So I'm just going to go to my texture panel, new, switch down to Voronoi, and just put this how I want it. That's looking pretty good. There are some bits where it's wider, but that's okay because since this will be cutting out just for individual frames, you probably won't notice too much. It'll just add more randomness. The next thing I'm going to do to add randomness is I'm going to have this rotate on the Z-axis in a full circle. So I'm going to just insert keyframe with keying set. I'm going to do rotation. I'm just going to move 10 frames forward. I'm going to rotate it, so R on the Z axis, and then type in 360. This will have rotated 360 degrees. So I'm just going to insert keyframe with keying set, rotation. As you can see, it's rotating, but it only does it once. So what I'm going to do is here, it's on timeline, and I'm going to go to graph editor. I'm going to pull this up just a little bit. Object transforms. I'm going to click Z Euler rotation to select the graph that is controlling the Z rotation. I'm going to go to modifiers, add modifier, and cycles. As you can see now, it's spinning continuously. This is some pretty good randomness. We might be able to get away with this. One more thing before I move on to adding the texture to this. I'm just gonna go ahead and make it a little smoother because right now it's really choppy and it's kind of hard to look at. So I'm gonna go to subdivision surface and just change this up to 2. Okay, to make the texture for this, I'm going to go to the shading tab. I'm going to go to materials, or material, not texture. I'm going to add a new material, and I'm going to delete the principled BSDF. Okay, so I'm in cycles, so I can use a volumetric. In Eevee, I don't think you can, but yeah, that's just kind of a downside of using Eevee. Okay, I'm just going to add a emissive texture. I'm going to put it into volume. I'm going to change the color to a nice orange and change the strength up. It's already looking pretty good in my opinion, but I'm going to add just a little more texture. So I'm going to add in a mix shader. I'm going to copy this emission, plug it in here. I'm going to make it a little less saturated, and I'm going to add in a noise texture. In between the noise texture, I'm going to add in a color ramp for some control. And then I'm going to add, well, actually, that's looking pretty good by itself. I can change the detail, the scale, and the roughness, but it's pretty good how it is. And yes, the color ramp will let you control the amount of this lighter color. Okay, the muzzle flash is almost complete. I'm just going to add one more thing, honestly. I'm going to add an empty so that I can parent it to the front of a gun if I feel the need to do so, which I don't really know why else you would be using a muzzle flash. Okay, yeah, it's pretty simple. You just make your empty, you scale it up to the right size, Control P, and keep transform. Okay, now my muzzle flash will continue to play whatever rotation I point it, because if earlier, I'm just going to go ahead and delete my empty. If I had tried to rotate my muzzle flash, every time I played it, it would just glitch and go back to the original location or rotation because I had the rotation set in my keyframes. But using the empty helps negate that. One more thing I forgot to mention is how to change the visibility of your muzzle flash. The easiest, most user-friendly way I found to do this is to just add a transparent node. So I'm going to just add another mix shader here, and then I'm going to add in a transparent BSDF. So now what I can do is just cycle in between these. And the way you can access this, if you're in layout or something for just ease of use, is you go to volume here in your material panel. Yeah, right here. And so I can keyframe it as 0, move 1 frame forward, turn it off, or move it to 1, keyframe, have that same keyframe here, and you can see the muzzle flash just appears from 1 frame. So that's how you get that to work. And I can actually go into, yeah, this is the right thing. Object transform, not the right thing. I think if I make my animation panel in the shading tab, where does that go? Dope sheet, yes. Material, yes. Here I have my firing. So I can just Control C and Control V that anytime I want it to fire. So that's how you just keyframe it every time you want it to shoot. And it's kind of hard to see here, but it is firing only when I want it to. Yeah, so that's it. It's pretty simple. It's not that hard to set up. It's randomized, because every time you see the muzzle flash, it is different, which just adds a little bit of realism. Okay, thanks for watching.